Hey there, Hillsiders. I am reminiscing a little bit about 2020 and what has happened in 2020. And one of the things that this year has afforded me the opportunity to do is read a lot more than I would normally have been reading. And a lot of my interesting reading of choice falls under the genre of history. And so I've read a lot of books this year that have just the year that the book is about. So this year I've read 1776, which is about the Declaration of Independence. Read 1812, which is about America cementing their freedom from Great Britain and really becoming a nation and rallying together. It was really the even more than 1776, the year that America became America. 1861, which is about the first year of the Civil War and what led up to it, and some of the issues that were being stirred up at that time, which really are still around today. It's a good book. You should check it out. Another one that's on the agenda is going to be 1968, how 1968 was a pivotal year, a turnaround for America, things that were experienced like within the Vietnam War, the Tet Offensive. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated that year. Bobby Kennedy was assassinated that year. Just bad stuff. But it was a pivotal year in American history, and things turned and shifted. And it made me think about what kind of books are going to be written about 2020, because this is a year like no other. We are experiencing something that has not been experienced in at least 100 years, and really has probably been experienced to an even greater extent worldwide because of our connectivity. And so I've been reminiscing and I've been pondering what are some of the things that are coming out of 2020 for me. And when I'm looking back in 10, 15, 20 years, talking to my grandkids and my great grandkids and anybody who wants to listen to a geezer talk about what was 2020 like when you're living through this. I'm wrestling through what are some of the things that are going to be my takeaways. And I think looking back at 2020 so far, I am blown away at the perspective I have right now that how little my life is under my control and my ability to do what I want when I want and how I want to do it. Recognizing also how interconnected our lives are. I think it's easy to focus on how individually we can live and our preferences and all that, but to recognize that one person's actions can have such a drastic impact for positive or for negative on others. Um, I think another thing that pops up is how easy it is to take for granted those things that we have held dear. Personal relationships, the opportunity to connect on a weekly basis in a public setting and within the church community, at our gym or favorite restaurant or coffee shop. Those are some of the things that jump out at me. I think one of the things that I am taking away and will be going forward with for the rest of my life is I don't ever want to take for granted my physical, my mental, my emotional, or my spiritual health. Each of those areas has been drastically tested by the events of 2020, by the stresses, by the things that we've suffered through, by the fears of the unknown and times of lack and times of just not knowing what's going to happen. Um, it's really been revealing about what's going on inside of my heart, inside of my soul. And I think the thing that I'm probably going to talk about the most is the trust that has emerged in a new way, my relationship with Jesus. And it's not like, please know, I'm not saying here that everything's perfect and wonderful and that, I'm not struggling. But I talk all the time, or I try to, about how our faith is made for difficult times, and our faith is made for times such as these when we go through the loss of loved ones, or we go through times of great shaking financially and physically and health wise, and all the different ways that we can shake. And I say our faith is made for times such as this. And I have to say, more than anything, I'm coming away from 2020 feeling like Jesus is enough. He is our rock. He's our fortress. He is our redeemer. He's the one who helps us to navigate through whatever's in front of us. And I found that every time I've needed to push into him even more and over again, when I've come to the end of myself, I find that he still is more than enough, and he continues to be. And I invite you to continue to join me in doing that, to trust that he's going to continue to meet our needs and to meet us where we are. And when things get better and there's a semblance of freedom of movement in life and being able to function like we have, pre-March of 2020, I don't ever want to go to a time where I live as though I can take Jesus for granted and don't necessarily need to interact with or connect with him on a daily basis. I found him to truly be my sustenance and truly be my strength. And I am praying that realization and that connection for each one of you and each person you come in contact with as well. I'm praying for you. I'd love to hear what some of your takeaways are for your 2020. And as you go forward, what are some of the things you would want to tell people about in the future? And as I'm thinking about it, there's also looking at each of the books I've read, the 1776, 1812, 1861, 1968. As I head towards that, it took years later, looking back with perspective, to say, oh, here's what was going on, and maybe that's what's going to happen with 2020. I don't have all the answers. I'm just thinking, here's the things that stand out the most, and the thing that stands out the most at this point is Jesus is enough. And even when everything else is fallen, going to hell in a handbasket, he's enough, and he's good. Take care.